Hello, friends. I'm Herbert Siguenza. I'm San Diego Rep's playwright in residence. I want to acknowledge that I am talking to you from Point Loma, which is Kumeyaay land, which extends on both sides of the border. I want to thank you for joining me on this four-part video series called In the Wings. Here at San Diego Rep, we feel it's very important to nurture and develop new work for a new America. Now, In the Wings, I will interview the curators and producers of four distinct new play development projects we have going here at San Diego Rep, which are very, very exciting. So let's do it. Today we talk to associate producer and casting director Kim Heil and director Delicia Turner Sonnenberg. They are the curators and producers of our new Black Voices reading series. Hi, Kim. Hi, Delicia. How you guys doing?
Good. Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for being our guest today. We'd like to hear more about the project. Where did the impulse of this series come from?
Well, San Diego Rep has been a champion of diversity obviously for decades, but one of the things that we realized in recent conversations was that we didn't have an African American voice in the programming room. So we felt like it was necessary to obviously address that. And in doing so, how could we more authentically engage with the Black theater community, both in San Diego, but also nationally? So we felt like creating an event where we were able to engage Black artists, not just San Diego, but also across the country, would be an opportunity to engage and to get to know some of these artists and playwrights. And so that's why we wanted to produce a series.
Yeah, I think there's a silver lining with the cancellation of shows and seasons. I think it's made us go internally to find voices that we would normally overlook because we get on this wheel of producing, right? And so great opportunity for new writers and of color to come out and be discovered by us or at least be exposed. How did we get the scripts? How did you find the scripts and what was the selection process like?
The literary manager, Danielle Ward, solicited scripts and has scripts. So she put together me as a curator and other people to read scripts. But the scripts came to the literary manager, Danielle Ward, who did a great job.
And I know that also our relationship with the National New Play Network has given us access to a lot of up and coming playwrights. Danielle was very intentional in trying to find not just established playwrights, but also those voices that may not have, gotten a big production yet, maybe has had some workshops. So I feel like the choices actually capture a range of experience, but also just where they are in the playwrights' careers in terms of development.
Is it a mix of established playwrights and new and upcoming playwrights?
Yes. And I would say it's also a very diverse group of subject matters. One of the things we were looking for is a diversity of topics and voices. I think this is a great opportunity for the field to get to know voices that have been unrepresented. And so we paid special attention to that. I know I did.
No, I think that's very important because I think traditionally theaters are so involved in producing. They want pedigree plays. They want plays that sell tickets. And I think this takes the pressure off that, right? And we're able to select plays that we want to read, that we want to expose to audiences, right?
Right.
And by playwrights who aren't necessarily recognizable names.
Mm-hmm. We were involved with the Breath Project. These were pieces, monologues that were 8 minutes and 46 seconds, as you know why. And I thought that was a great way to expose a lot of writers that I have never seen. How did you feel about that, Delicia?
I agree with what you said. I mean, I think any opportunity, if we're talking about diversity and opportunity, then the more exposure underrepresented writers get, the better. And I also think what was important in this series is who got to choose. I think the Rep did a good job about, and Kim was a part of this discussion, like it's not just so much about representation, it's also agency. My fellow curators, Kimberly King and Ahmed, who works there at the Rep, were fellow curators. And because I'm a curator, but I can't speak for all of Black American theater, right? I wanted to be a group of us. And so our discussions, who likes this play? And are we representing Black men? And are we different disciplines in the theater? And so it was a good group and good discussions about why this play this time.
So the curation season wasn't all African American, it was diverse, like America. And I think we all have come from different points of view. And I think that was great to have that diversity in the group.
But I do think it's important that because it's an African American festival, that the African American curators shows.
Oh yes, thank you.
Shows work.
Well, and that's why we felt it was very important to have you as part of the mix, Alicia, because you've been a leader here in San Diego, and so it was very important to have you as a curator. So have pieces been selected, and if you have selected them, is there any pieces that really excite you?
The pieces have been selected and they all excite me. They're all different and there's a mixture of tone and style. And so that is super exciting. I think for an audience, some people may tune into a certain play, oh, I think I've heard of that playwright, but a reading series or a play series is like an album. So you want to hear the whole album. You want to see all the plays because of context.
Do you know if some of these plays were written before the summer of 2020? In other words, before George Floyd's death?
Yes.
After?
Oh, yeah.
If they were, are they different in tone?
If I could, I will say that it's interesting to mark the last summer as a turning point, which it was historically, but I want to say that the issues that playwrights have been dealing with have been going on for centuries, right? Let's be real. So the themes of violence or injustice, maybe they were explored differently after last summer, but they're, that's just part of the I think consciousness of some of these writers. It's not new. Right.
And I would say, even if the events of the summer in 2020 means that the audience will view this work differently.
Sure.
More than,
yes.
Like Kim said, is completely correct. These are issues that have been coming up in the work for a long time.
Well, yes, I mean, this invasion of the Capitol, people's point of view about America in general changing, right? So I think it's really interesting what's happening in the country right now. Our representation of Black voices has been sort of weak, and when we have presented them, they're the African American of the past. I don't see too much contemporary issues on the Rep stage. Do you think that will change after last summer?
Oh, I hope so. Well, I mean, I really believe it is imperative now that artistic institutions respond to the events of the last year, right? I think that is absolutely part of the fabric of what art has to be right now. But even that aside, it was always important to San Diego Rep to tell the stories of the multiple voices of the region. So in order to stay true to that idea, it was absolutely always part of the intent to represent underrepresented writers. Now, I will say though that the challenge has been that while we are celebrating Black voices in this particular series, we also want to celebrate other brown voices, right? And in recent history, the Latinx voice has been pretty well represented in San Diego
Yes.
Rep. As you said, in the recent history, it just hasn't, the Black storytelling has not been as as featured, quite frankly,
Right.
as I think we all recognize that it should be. So yeah, I feel like we are trying to make strides towards better representation in our programming. And what does that look like when we're trying to balance that with other voices? As you guys could probably guess, I'm a big advocate for Asian storytelling, so there's a lot of conversation about that. But this in particular, we felt it was very important as a first step towards featuring more artists who are Black.
Alicia, we San Diego, we live in a county where the African American population is very low compared to Chicago, Detroit,
Atlanta, where I'm from.
Atlanta. Yes, Atlanta, Atlanta. And what is it difficult? Is it difficult to show African American work in this community where first the audience is not there, and second, you have an audience that has comes from another perspective, theater-wise?
What's hard is to get the work programmed. What's easy is out of sight, out of mind. So if you don't see a lot of Black people, then you don't have to think about a lot of Black people, and then you don't have to think about Black work. So that is a question of leadership more than population.
And I'm a playwright, as you know, and it's all about tone. What do you think of the representation of Black voices from the past compared to the let's say a contemporary voice? In other words, like I was saying earlier about the dancing, singing,
Right.
bio plays, let's say, of a famous singer compared to somebody who, let's say, lost somebody during BML.
A lot of Black writers write about the past in order to expose something about the present. But I think a lot of those plays are taken as history pieces rather than this is what's happening now. I'm using this lens to expose this thing. Writers are getting more blatant, obviously, but I also it goes to who's programming. What about like Black love, Black joy? Like, where are those stories? Because
Yes.
when the work does get done, it's generally like, oh, poor family. And that is an important story. I am not poo-pooing that story, but that's the story. We already know that story. We keep
We already
getting
know, yeah.
that story.
We need to.
Where are the other stories?
I
Where are
agree.
the stories that combine the past and the present? We have a play like that in this, and that shows the impact of the past on the present. Like, we have a play like that, and we have comedy. We have a play that deals with the pressures of society on young Black kids. The exciting thing about this series for me is how varied it is, how they're, like I said, it's like an album and there's all kinds of songs in it.
When Kim, tell us, let the audience know when we're gonna hear these voices.
March 15th, which is a Monday, with Polar Bears, Black Boys, and Prairie Fringed Orchids. And then the March 22nd is the reading of Baton. And then the March 29th is a reading of Mud Row. And then April 5th is the reading of The Great Khan. And what we'll do is we'll have the readings of these plays at 5:30 p.m. Pacific, so that folks over in the East Coast can also enjoy the reading at a fairly decent hour.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have a talk back after each one, so that we'll have a chance to hear what the audience thinks about the plays that they've just heard.
And I'm part of the impetus behind the series, as well as exposing new and different voices, is also conversation, right? And so each of these plays raise a specific conversation, and I know that the rep is looking to be in conversation with the community about the issues that the plays raise, or what comes up. When I say issues, I don't mean like after school drama. I just mean like the human issues that come up.
This is great. Well, you heard it here, folks. Black Voices series coming in March. I've been talking to Delicia Turner Sonberg and Kim Heil, who are curators of the Black Voices series. And I just wanted to thank you guys for coming on the show and letting our audience know what's coming up here at the Rep.
Thank you for having me.
I hope you enjoyed this interview on In the Wings. Join us next time where you'll hear another exciting project that San Diego Rep is cooking up. Meanwhile, stay safe.